This is Saxon Math for 6th grade. Today we're doing lesson 104. We're talking about parts of a circle again. It's been a little while since we've done parts of a circle. Let's remind ourselves what we're talking about. When we have a full circle, the distance around a circle is called the circumference. We have a formula for circumference that we learned in a previous lesson. To find the distance around the circle, which is the circumference, we take 2 times the radius. The radius of a circle, just in case you've forgotten, is the distance from the center to the outside. I'll put a little r here for radius. If we take 2 times the radius times pi, that will give us the circumference of a circle. And just to remind us, we can find area of a circle as well. Area is how much space is in the middle of the circle. If we take pi times the radius squared, it gives us the area of a circle. All right, now knowing what we know, today we're not going to talk about the whole circle, we're going to talk about half of the circle. Half of a circle has a special math term. It's called a semicircle. Please make sure that all of these notes make it into your journal. You'll want to be able to refer back to them later when you work on your problems. A semicircle is exactly half of a circle. The math to work with a semicircle is exactly half of the math of a whole circle. If you want to find the circumference, which is the distance around the outside, of a semicircle. So for example, here is our whole circle. Here's our semicircle, just this part. The circumference of our semicircle would be the distance from here around the outside, just to there. That would be our circumference of our semicircle. And you can find that by using the formula for the full circumference, 2r pi, and then just splitting it in half. Half of the whole distance would be the half for the semicircle. In math, that looks like half times 2r pi, which is our formula for our circumference. There's some other ways to write that. When I multiply them together, the 2 will become the denominator. So I could write that as 2r pi divided by 2. That would mean the same thing. Or some people don't like to write 2r as 2r. They like to write it as a diameter. If you remember from before, the radius is the distance from the center to the outside of the circle. If you put 2 radii together across the circle, you get a diameter. 2 r's is the same thing as a diameter. So you could write the circumference of a semicircle any of these ways. Half times 2r pi divided by 2, or the diameter pi divided by 2. All mean the same thing. We can equally as easily use our area for a full circle to help us find the area of half a circle. If the area of a full circle is pi r squared, then the area of a semicircle, of half a circle, would be pi r squared divided in half. I could write that as 1/2 times pi r squared. I could also write that as pi r squared divided by 2. Both mean the same thing. Make sure you have these in your notes. You want them for our problems. Turns out a semicircle is a very special type of sector. A sector is any piece of a circle that goes from the outside to the center. It's almost always going to look like a slice of a pie. It can be very skinny. Here I have a sector that is equal to 1/4 of my whole circle. A semicircle is a sector that is exactly half of a circle. I could also have a sector that takes up almost all of my circle. This would be a very large sector. So a sector goes from the outside of the circle to the center, and it will look like a pie slice. To find the area or circumference of a sector, all you need to do is use the same formulas we've already learned, but you need to figure out what fraction of that whole circle you want to represent. When we want to represent half of it, we take our formula for our whole circle and we divide it by 2. We cut it in half. If I have a sector that is a quarter of a circle and I wanted to find the circumference or the area, I would use my fractional piece, a quarter, and find what is a quarter of the circumference. That would be the circumference here. What is 1/4 of the area? That will be the area here. For this particular sector, because it is 1/4 of my full circle, if I wanted to find the area of this sector, I would take 1/4 of my area formula, which is pi r squared. Or I could write it as pi r squared divided by 4. I could do the same for the circumference. If the circumference of a full circle is 2 pi r, and I want to find the circumference of only 1/4 of the circle, I would take 1/4 times 2r pi. Or I could easily write that also as 2r pi divided by 4. You can use this for any fractional part of a circle. I'd like you to stop the video now, make sure you have a complete set of notes. We're going to try a few practice problems together to practice using this information.